I snuck up to my parents' bedroom and put my ear to the door. There were muffled voices coming from inside the door. My parents were discussing me in the latest escapade. "Can't you see what her daughter has become?" I heard my father's concerned voice. "Yeah, she is like a different person," Mom agreed. In the secretive tone, my father added, "You know what it looks like." Mom just as quietly replied, "Yes, she is a witch." There was silence in the room. "Oh, that's outrageous. A witch? Seriously?" "Hi, my name is Samantha, and my parents are always suspicious of me. They're always watching shows about conspiracy theories, psychics, mystical occurrences, and believe everything they hear. Are aliens going to enslave humanity?" "Exactly. An ancient civilization is secretly controlling our nation." "Why not?" "That old witch burned down the whole neighborhood." "That's exactly what happened." I remember this peculiarity of theirs since I was a kid. When I was 5, out of the blue, several glasses fell off the top shelf and broke. It could have been anything, but my parents, without thinking too much, decided that it was me who had pushed the glasses with my mind. Accidents and rational arguments did not exist for them. It was more logical to blame it on telekinesis, which had suddenly awakened in a small child. So they took me to a TV show where I had to demonstrate my non-existent gift to a big audience and win a huge amount of money. $1 million. Besides me, there were several other weirdos on the program. A man who could fly, an invisible man, and even a crocodile man. Of course, they had no superpowers whatsoever and became like me, part of some ridiculous science fiction spectacle. Of course, when they sat me at the table in front of the TV cameras and made me move the glasses with my mind, it didn't work. We never won $1 million. Well, to be fair, nobody wanted to. I don't know if my parents were more upset that I didn't get that money or that I wasn't a mutant kid. Even then, my father was pestering me with his favorite phrase, "You can do it, Samantha. You're special." Sometimes he would sound proud, other times menacing, and oftentimes fearful. I'm so glad none of my relatives or acquaintances watched that show, and I myself was a small child at the time, but that did not save me from humiliation in the future. However, my parents thought I was a mutant, an alien on Amazon, and each time, all this had a strange explanation that only they understood, and only for them it appeared logical. Like fallen glasses or unusually shaped mole. I think you can imagine what it's like to be a girl that everyone unreasonably thinks is special. All these parental oddities had a big impact on me. I grew up a very reserved child. At first, I believed what my parents said and really thought I was special. But my classmates didn't think so and made fun of me all the time. That was the word I heard the most often in my address. Even though it wasn't my fault, it was all my parents' fault. I would have loved to be friends and hang out with other kids, but the thought of new friends getting to know my mom and dad terrified me. And then it could have been dangerous for the other kids. You'll see why later. I'm surprised I haven't lost my mind so far. Even in my personal life, I've had setbacks. My first boyfriend, Derek, was another victim of my parents' fertile imagination. They thought he was a Russian intelligence agent who had been infiltrated into our environment to spy on me. After all, I'm special, in case you haven't forgotten. One day, the FBI received a call from 2 concerned citizens. I don't know what my parents told the FBI, but the agents took what they said very seriously and went to Derek's house. What the poor guy had been through was known only to him and the agents who had come to expose him. Derek was quick to forget about the relationship. He started avoiding me and kept away from me. Since then, all the boys at school were looking at me like I was a walking atomic bomb that could explode at any moment. For someone else, this childhood might have ended in a huge psychological trauma and therapy for the rest of their lives. But I was used to it. Although the Derek incident was the most unpleasant of my parents' pranks, oddly enough, for the past 2 years, our family seemed calm. No parental paranoia. Mom and Dad behaved like regular, normal adults. They went to work, asked me how school was going. It hadn't been a long time since I heard the phrase that made me sick to my stomach. Samantha, you're special. At that time, I've gotten used to being my normal self. Derek was no longer avoiding me, but he was still secretive and silent. I can imagine what he went through during the FBI interrogation. I started working for the school newspaper, and that's where I met Simon. He and I became very close, and I thought he even liked me. Every once in a while, someone would bring up the whole situation with Derek, but it happened less and less often. In high school, no one cared. My greatest fear was that one day this fragile harmony in my life would be shattered by another twist from Mom and Dad, so something had to be done to keep my last year of school from turning into hell. I wouldn't survive another show where everyone expected me to fly on a broomstick or turn people into toads. But why did my parents suddenly think I was a witch? I couldn't figure that out. Was it because of the Halloween costume? You never know with them what might get you in trouble. One day you're walking around in a hoodie and black glasses, and the next day your parents are sharpening their aspen stakes. I was sick of putting up with this whole circus, and for the first time in my life, I decided to play along with my parents' fantasy. They want to get one. The first thing I did was change my image. I bought myself a black outfit and mini skirt, blouse, tights, and heels. To complete the image, I hung a chain with a pentagram around my neck. I decided to give up the idea of having a black cat. I also bought books on black magic and scattered them around my room. I knew my parents were spying on me and would definitely see them. I needed a final touch, something grandiose, something that would spare me absurd suspicions for at least a year. Simon suggested an idea. He was the only one I shared my problems with. Let's have a party in the park next to the cemetery, which is covered in style, and you can make sure your parents were there. It's a cool idea. I agreed. Hopefully it would scare them away from interfering with my life, and I thought to myself that it was hard not to fall in love with Simon, who was so smart, witty, and good-looking. Together, we printed out a bunch of flyers with the date and location of the party and posted them all over the school. The party was going to be a costume party with a witch dress code, which had clown costumes, or at the very least, gold costumes. Meanwhile, my parents weren't letting it go this time. They were dragging a Bible around the house with them. As I continued to play along, I pretended to feel bad about their presence and went into another room. It was so funny. Did you see her reaction? Dad whispered as soon as I was out of the kitchen. Yes, Mom answered. Poor little girl is a servant of Satan in those books. My father's voice was more excited than concerned. I was enjoying the show, I must admit. However, it was too early to relax. Who knows what my parents might do this time? They were unpredictable. Let's not forget about the poor Derek story. Simon texted me the next day. He said that half the school was coming to our party. It was going to be quite a show. I was ready for tonight. I put on my witch costume and snuck out of the house, deliberately leaving the flyer on the table. I knew my parents would fall for it, and I knew they wouldn't even think about reading the whole thing. A costume party. No one would even notice the phrase. The main thing would be the word coven printed in large letters at the top of the sheet. I had to get to know them. My parents' years of humiliation did not go in vain. I arrived at the park when the coven was in full swing. There were so many people at first, I couldn't believe that they had all come to a party we had organized. It was noisy for the minions of darkness. I thought there were witches and wizards and warlocks, and I think I saw a zombie or two. Everyone had done a great job with their makeup and cool outfits, although many came without costumes. Well, it's impossible to control everything, and I'm not giving them out now. I need a crowd. Meanwhile, Simon came up to me. Wow, Samantha, you look amazing. I blushed and shyly answered, Thank you. You look great too. Simon, who was wearing a dark wizard costume. I just had to wait for my parents to show up, but instead, suddenly several police cars drove into the park and the kids all scattered around. Simon grabbed my hand and we ran through the woods. At one point, he stopped abruptly and suddenly kissed me. My legs buckled in surprise and I almost fell over. But the police flashlights were already visible among the trees, chasing us, the troublemakers. So we continued running. That moment alone made the whole spectacle worthwhile. When we reached my house, Simon kissed me once more and disappeared into the darkness. I wanted to sneak quietly into my room, but as soon as I opened the front door, the light came on in the living room. My parents were waiting for me on the couch. They seemed to have waited for more than an hour, sitting in total darkness. Dad got up and started nervously pacing from one corner to the other, and Mom looked out the window with a detached look. Finally, Dad stopped and asked, "Where have you been?" I did not know what to answer. Again, he asked, "Where have you been?" I began to timidly justify myself. I was gathering information about the coven for the school newspaper. Mom looked me in the eyes reproachfully. I guess the plan didn't work, or rather, it worked, but not all the way I had planned. It turned out that the day before, my parents had watched a documentary that amazingly made them realize that I was not a witch and that witches did not exist. And just like that, in one day, I went from being a witch to a troubled teenager without any supernatural powers. My parents decided that I was in bad company, so they called the police and told them that a crowd of Satanists had gathered near the cemetery. I don't know why, but law enforcement believes everything. Mom and Dad say, "Can you believe it?" Just like last time, Derek was the only one hurt, and he didn't even want to go to the party. The police caught him, and now he had to sweep the streets for 2 months to work off his administrative penalty. Oh, poor Derek. But I didn't get away with it either. "You are grounded for a month," my father said, not without pleasure. "It's a witch hunt," I yelled back and ran to my room. Simon and I were just getting somewhere, and then I was grounded. But it's no big deal. The punishment was soon over, and we could enjoy each other's company again. So that's the true story. I hope it helps with all those who are considered witches, warlocks, aliens, troubled teens, and God knows who else by their parents. What would you do if your parents behaved like mine? Write your answers in the comments, like the video, and share it with your friends. Intrigue, gossip, and scandal are an integral part of true stars' lives. After all, a shouting match or a dark secret arouses interest in a star like nothing else. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha, and I have something to tell you. The thing is that I was a part of the Kardashian family for several years. I understand that it's hard to believe, but let me explain everything. My parents are very famous people, but in certain circles, my father is a successful producer who has his own TV show, and my mother is a director of a large cleaning company, the services of which are often used by famous singers, models, athletes, politicians, and just rich people. One may say, "How's that? Why have I never heard of such a company?" I think you've probably heard of it. The thing is that, as a rule, working with celebrities goes under the radar, and all employees sign a document of non-disclosure of confidential information of their customers. Once I signed such a document, what? Do you think that a child of wealthy parents never works? Well, maybe someone really doesn't work, but at that time, I was a teenager and needed money because my parents didn't give me a lot of pocket money. Moreover, of course, I really wanted to meet a true celebrity, at least once in my lifetime. Even being a maid myself, my mother refused to hire me for a long time since I was underage and didn't know how to clean. But several perfectly cleaned offices and blisters on my fingers convinced her that I was capable of something at least. I worked with many celebrities over the few years working at that company. The Kardashian family are the ones I remember the most. When I found out that they had turned to our company in search of maids, I immediately began to beg my mother to let me work for them. At that time, I wasn't much older than Kendall, and I just dreamed of making friends with her or Kylie. Unfortunately, we never became friends. To tell the truth, we almost never even talked, but perhaps it's because frequent quarrels among the sisters, some of which were intentionally plotted by their mother, quickly opened my eyes.
I realized that this unusual family consists of the most usual people with the most unusual goals. But first things first. First of all, I'd like to tell you about Kris, the mother of all 5 Kardashian sisters. She is a unique woman and a true business lady. She is the head of the Kardashian family in every sense of the word. She's like the boss of the Italian mafia. No one, including Kourtney, Khloe, and even Kim, dared to go against her. Besides, Kris was very, very cunning. It seemed that her whole life was a chess game in which she was a grandmaster and an all-time winner. To be honest, I was always afraid of her. She taught her daughters to live for a show 24/7 every day. There was always cameras near them from dawn till dusk, everywhere at home, outside in a shopping mall. They were surrounded by a personal film crew, always and everywhere, and on the weekends, the cameramen even stayed overnight in their house. Absolutely everything was shot, and then Kris herself selected the frames for the next episode of the show. Believe me, all the hottest scandals were personally approved by Kris, while her daughters never knew exactly what their mother would put in the next episode. Now, I'd like to talk about Kourtney, the eldest of the Kardashian sisters. Unfortunately, I saw her quite rarely, since at the time she was pregnant with her first child. But I can state with confidence that she was a good person. At that time, she started arguing with her mother and Kim. After Mason was born, Kourtney deliberately missed the shoot and even tried to quit the project. I cleaned the smashed dishes almost every day, and they shouted so loudly that I could literally go deaf. Kourtney stopped trying to escape only after Kris had slapped her hard in the face. Right after this, they had another shouting match. Unfortunately, I don't know the details. That day, they made us leave early without even finishing work. After that, very bad vibes resigned in the house, but everyone did their best to pretend that nothing had happened. The second sister in the Kardashian family is Kim, and for me, she's the most controversial piece on the chessboard. On the one hand, she's a kind, loving sister and mother. On the other hand, she is a cunning and merciless bitch who won't stand any competition. I saw how Kim sometimes ruined careers of many starlets. As for the family, she had the biggest quarrels with Khloe. The thing is that Khloe has always been different from her sisters. She was a tall girl with curly hair, and Kim often called her the ugliest, a freak, or even an off-brand sister. Once they even started fighting because of this. The girls scratched each other's hands, and I didn't know what to do. Eventually, the film crew pulled them apart. When Kris found out about it, she was really dissatisfied. She yelled that instead of pulling apart the girls, they had to shoot the fight. Kim always had the most strained relationship with Kendall. I'll say it again. Kim always thought she was a queen, the most successful and the most beautiful of all the sisters. High hopes were put on her, and she wasn't going to give up her position to anyone, especially to her little sisters. Each time Kendall announced a new contract, something suddenly broke in the house. Nevertheless, the girls always smiled for the camera and tried to pretend like they liked each other, but they didn't always succeed. The next one I want to talk about is Khloe. It's probably wrong to say that, but it was her who I often truly felt sorry for. She tried to achieve success as her elder sisters many times, but she just couldn't do it. In pursuit of fame, Khloe launched her show, published a book on fitness, and promoted a healthy lifestyle. Although she preferred plastic surgery, many of her relationships were based only on profit, hype, and popularity, but they brought her nothing but disappointment. Unfortunately, unlike Kim, Khloe was too emotional and had a gentle nature. Many of their relationships, which were originally just PR stunts, ended up hurting her as she fell in love for real. Now, I'd like to say a few words about Rob. He is the middle brother of the Kardashian sisters. By the way, I chatted with him most of all. He was a likable guy, and I'm sure that he could have become even more famous if it weren't for his health problems and a series of scandals on Twitter. I even have some of his photos at my place. Well, he was a model after all. And the last ones about whom I'd like to talk to you today are Kendall and Kylie. I saw them almost every day, but we rarely spoke. Once I tried to establish contact with them, but soon I realized that I shouldn't. These girls were really very nice and kind, but I was still an ordinary servant for them. In addition, I was very curious. I was subsequently fired because of this. So let's get back to Kendall. She is the girl who managed to become a supermodel at 13, the girl who took over dozens and hundreds of catwalks, the girl whose photos are put on glossy covers of the most famous magazines. She is my idol. Kendall always knew what she wanted. Her determination, character, and beauty still didn't help her become truly famous and get out of Kim's shadow. Kylie was the exact opposite of Kendall. Kylie lacked self-confidence. She was very jealous of her elder sisters. One could see it in her eyes and stooping shoulders. Kendall was the only person who supported her. Kylie sincerely laughed and chatted incessantly, only with her. Once I was involved in such a conversation, and I realized that Kylie was a very kind and nice girl. It was truly difficult for her to live with her celebrity sisters. My last days at the Kardashian house was the time when Kendall and Kylie released their makeup line, which caught buzz. You know, it was very funny to watch Kim rush to develop her brand in pursuit of the success of her little sisters. Kim failed trying to lower Kylie's self-esteem with various remarks and reproaches. She accidentally forgot to congratulate her on her birthday and even spoiled her gorgeous evening dress. She acted like a child, but at the same time, despite all the envy and hatred, the sisters never harmed each other's health. I'm not sure about mental health, but they certainly never spoiled each other's appearance. To be honest, I really liked working in the Kardashian family. Although I was an ordinary maid, I saw them the way they were. Kris, Kourtney, Kim, Khloe, Kendall, Kylie. They're just celebrities for some people, and for me, they were real individuals with their own strengths and weaknesses. Moreover, they always treated me kindly. Indeed, maybe none of them wanted to become my best friend or make me a celebrity, although I dreamed of it every day. But over time, I realized that I didn't need it at all. How did I get fired? Well, once I was cleaning up Kris's study and saw a notebook in which very interesting things were written. Madam? Kris saw me reading that notebook. It turned out that it was kind of a business plan or something like that. She was outraged and demanded that I leave her house immediately. My mother had a lot to bear because of my curiosity, but fortunately, at that time, Kris was busy doing more important stuff and had no time for the beef with some sort of meat. By the way, in that notebook, it was written that, let it remain a secret. Thanks for listening to my story. And which of the Kardashian sisters do you like more? Kourtney, Kim, Khloe, Kendall, or Kylie? Give your answer in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.